Luka, he's 5-1 in this tournament with that Kangaskhan. He definitely has a game plan on how to play it.
Yes, he definitely does. But this matchup looks, just on paper, a little bit rough for him. The Mandibuzz isn't getting any kind of boosts yet because it's not partnered up with something like the Tapu Fini. So it's not got the boost from a potential Misty Seed. And a Nihilego with a Power Gem is going to do a bit of a number on it. Probably not getting a knockout because Mandibuzz is very, very bulky indeed. But coming very close. Kangaskhan, on the other hand, can only buy time with one thing. It still has access to Fake Out, but it's only going to be able to stop one thing at a time.
Well, in this case, Kangaskhan chooses to stop that Hariyama. Nihilego with the Power Gem going to connect with the Mandibuzz, and Mandibuzz able to just barely hold on. Nihilego revealing that it's holding the Life Orb item. Mandibuzz choosing to taunt that Nihilego.
So Mandibuzz probably thinking that with the Nihilego is going to maybe try and set up a Trick Room. Very interesting use of play, but Mandibuzz not getting what it needed that time. I think Mandibuzz maybe wanted to try and set up something like a Tailwind for the rest of the team. This Hariyama, yes, it got slowed down, it didn't get to do any damage, the critical hit Fake Out has taken a significant chunk out of it, but overall, the Kangaskhan's still at threat of a big fighting type attack from this Hariyama, so I still think it's a very, very good position for Markus. Seems to be in the driving seat, and Arcanine for Mandibuzz's switch, I don't know if I'd have made.
Well, Arcanine's Intimidate will certainly potentially help Kangaskhan survive maybe the close combat from that Hariyama. I would imagine this is something that Luka's planned for, given the fact that Hariyama is one of the few powerful fighting-type Pokemon in this metagame, but Kangaskhan goes for a Bulldoze, lowering the speed of Luka's own Arcanine, lowering the speed of that Hariyama, and lowering the speed and almost knocking out that Nihilego. Hariyama with the close combat will finish up this turn into that Kangaskhan, and Kangaskhan's able to hold on.
Yes, with the use of the Intimidate from Arcanine, Kangaskhan not immediately knocked out by the close combat, and now many, many stats on that Hariyama are lowered. Special defense, and speed, all brought down by a single stage. Be curious to see if the Hariyama is similar to one that Tobias was running earlier, which has access to Feint, maybe enough to get that little bit of damage down that it needs to knock out the Kangaskhan. This Arcanine with its speed lowered doesn't even get an advantage over the Nihilego, so if Hariyama's Feint could knock out Kangaskhan, Nihilego still puts great pressure down on this Arcanine. I think maybe a slightly missed trick, maybe predicting something else like the Tapu Fini to come in, which is why the Nihilego went for the Sludge Bomb. If he'd gone for another Power Gem, then he could have been in a great position. He clearly values that Pokemon so much, though.
Tapu Bulu out on the field in Nihilego's place, bringing with it the grassy terrain that actually weakens the power of future Bulldozes from that Kangaskhan. Hariyama switching out as well. Markus sending in his own Arcanine, looking to intimidate both the Kangaskhan and the Arcanine out on Luka's side of the field. So Markus making a double switch there, sacrificing his ability to attack this turn for possible better positioning moving forwards. Return from that Kangaskhan connects with that Tapu Bulu, and it's another Infernal Overdrive, a move that we didn't see on Arcanines that often, making its second appearance today at the International Championship.
Yeah, one of those adaptations as we come towards the back end of the season. Inferno Overdrives from Luka's side is going to be very important where it targets. The double switch from Markus could either be a great move, which it is as we see the targeting going towards the Arcanine on Markus' side, taking very little damage indeed. It does get to heal a little bit back of it with the grassy terrain, as is everything touching the ground. But overall, I think that play worked out very, very well indeed for Markus. He got a double switch. He now has Arcanine on the field on his side, which, assuming it has extreme speed, which many of them do, should be able to start picking up knockouts on the Kangaskhan. Of course, the Tapu Bulu may need a little bit of help covering that Arcanine because of the type disadvantage. But Tapu Bulu, naturally very bulky, especially in the physical defense, has that option to take at least one of these Flare Blitzes. I think if this Arcanine's removed from play on Luka's side of the field, then he's going to struggle to deal with this Tapu Bulu in a very significant way.
Well, we did see that Tapu Bulu earlier today by Tobias have bulk up, so part of me can't help but wonder if this Tapu Bulu is carrying it as well. No attack from the Arcanine on Luka's side of the field. Instead, that Mandibuzz taking its place. Arcanine with the Flare Blitz to knock out the Kangaskhan. And Tapu Bulu, the last Pokemon to move this turn. Will it go for an attack? It does. Horn Leech into that Mandibuzz for a knockout.
Yeah, even though it wasn't very effective because of the flying typing on Mandibuzz, the grassy terrain boosting the attack definitely helps out. Tapu Bulu recovering a little bit of health as well, so at the end of this turn, maybe sitting pretty at full health, or at least very, very close to indeed. Of course, the Arcanine is an option, or it's going to have to come back in on Luka's side of the field. Not even an option. He has to bring it in. He's onto his last 2 Pokemon. And Markus probably feels very comfortable indeed. Luka shows off the Tapu Fini, which even without grassy terrain, Tapu Bulu's probably going to be able to deal with. And Arcanine comes out alongside it, which is already exceptionally weak.
So Arcanine, I mean, that Intimidate that Luka just brought out onto the field, lowering the attack of the Arcanine and the Tapu Bulu on Markus's side, might buy him a turn. Maybe we'll see that Tapu Bulu switch out, but there's still so much damage potential for Markus. He still has all of his Pokemon. He's in a really good spot.
Well, what Markus can realistically do here is actually just remove Tapu Bulu until the Arcanine on Luka's side has been completely dealt with. So even if it takes 1, maybe 2 turns, he has the 4-2 Pokemon advantage and should be able to round out this game very, very comfortably without showing off too much. In this case, he's just probably going to start switching nearly everything around, just try and get himself a very comfortable win, maybe even force Luka to reveal more information.
Well, Luka, I think, is on the same page as Markus, using Protect to stop his Arcanine from getting knocked out this turn. Scald from the Tapu Fini connects with that Hariyama, revealing that Hariyama is holding a Citrus Berry, which with all of the Pinch Berries around, I think you kind of forget that Citrus Berry exists. Well, there it is. It's on that Hariyama, and gave Hariyama a bit more health.
Yeah, and that's maybe a bit of information that Markus didn't want to give up. By dragging out this game overall, then it does become a little bit harder. So it's information that's very, very important. Both these players really looking to play it out. This Hariyama doing significant damage, of course, with a fake out. Doesn't quite get it, but I think that's a more damaging fake out than most are anticipating.
Yeah, Luka tried to go for a double protect there on that Arcanine, didn't get it, was able to knock out the Hariyama with the Moonblast from the Tapu Fini and Horn Leech from that Tapu Bulu into the Tapu Fini. It's super effective, and thanks to its help, Tapu Bulu's back at full health.
Yes, and now this definitely opens up the door for Markus to bring back in that Nihilego that we saw towards the end of the last game. That could be his real insurance policy. He does get to bring in Arcanine, of course. That's going to intimidate Luka's. But there's no real way for Luka to get out of this, with Tapu Fini sitting at around sort of 60% of its health, and Arcanine sitting at about 10%, just under, if you do the maths exactly in your head there. Then it's going to come in as, whatever is left, Nihilego is going to be able to deal with. So Arcanine can just deal with the other Arcanine with an extreme speed, and Tapu Bulu can start wearing down this Tapu Fini. If something crazy goes wrong, then he has Nihilego as the insurance policy.
Well, if something crazy goes on, it will happen this turn. Tapu Fini protecting itself, not ready to get knocked out, but Arcanine on Markus' side of the field outspeeds Luka's Arcanine and uses Flare Blitz for that knockout. So just like that, Luka may get lucky if he has Muddy Water, maybe gets a couple accuracy drops, but otherwise I think this game is almost over and we'll start looking towards game 2.
Yes, and you've got to think, when we look at the Tapu Bulu, what it's got and what it's given up to really make this moveset accessible, as we did see a failed superpower from it earlier. A move that it doesn't usually have space for. Looks like Luka's going to be locking in the forfeit, knows that he's fallen too far behind. And in this game, now he needs a little bit of time to adjust and get ready for game 2 and potentially game 3.
Yeah, and he did get a lot of interesting information. We saw that Citrus Berry, we saw that the Nihilego, not a Trick Room set, despite the fact that Markus led it with one of the, I think, most popular Trick Room setters, at least from a couple metagames ago, that Hariyama. We saw that a little bit about that Tapu Bulu. We know that it has the Horn Leech. So really a lot of information that he can take into this game, but at the same time, giving up that the Kangaskhan knows Bulldoze, knows Fake Out. I think we saw a return from that Kangaskhan, so no surprises left there. Mandibuzz didn't really accomplish much during that game at all.
Mandibuzz managed to taunt an Nihilego and not do anything with it. An Nihilego that really didn't care about being taunted. I think it was very brave of Luka to leave that Mandibuzz in against the Nihilego. Yes, it was able to take the Power Gem, that powerful special rock-type attack, of which there aren't that many. And it would have been a whole lot more comfortable if he'd led the Mandibuzz with the Tapu Fini. I think that choice in the lead from Luka was a little bit odd overall.
Yeah, I think he might have been expecting something a little bit different from Markus. I'm not really sure what. Maybe the Porygon Z. You know, Porygon Z is traditionally one of those Pokemon that you have to have some sort of set way to counter it. In this case, no Porygon Z on the field yet. Same leads as last game, that Nihilego and the Hariyama out on the field from Markus, and an adaptation by Luka, Tapu Koko, and Arcanine out on his side of the field.
I very much prefer this lead for Markus. He's got a number of great options here. He could fake out the Tapu Koko and follow up with an immediate Sludge Bomb, then getting the knockout on that. He could fake out the Tapu Koko and then hit a Power Gem towards that Arcanine, probably getting a very easy knockout. We saw in Game 1 that the Nihilego is carrying the Life Orb, and that basically manages to make these almost knockouts guaranteed knockouts. No matter how you train an Arcanine, it's really, really slim chances that you're going to be able to take a Power Gem off a Nihilego carrying the Life Orb. I think Markus may focus the Tapu Koko with something like a Fake Out and Sludge Bomb, because the Arcanine switch is arguably a little bit telegraphed.
Garchomp might be able to take that Power Gem, though, as Tapu Koko on Luka's side of the field protects. Hariyama, though, going for a feint to break through the Tapu Koko's protect. Did Nihilego go for a Sludge Bomb to target that Tapu Koko for the knockout? It crashes into that Tapu Koko and knocks it out. An amazing read by Markus there.
Absolutely read him like a book. There's no other way to describe that. Knows the protect is coming out, throws the feint that way rather than the fake out, and gets a very comfortable knockout on that Tapu Koko. Now Nihilego's got a Beast Boost as well. That's something that needs to be dealt with. Of course, Garchomp is a pretty solid answer to try and deal with it, but at the same time, you know, that Nihilego could be very, very pacey, and with the Beast Boost, going to be doing a lot of damage. Even though the Arcanine comes back in, he's not slowing the roll of this Nihilego in the slightest. The curious thing that comes out of that turn 1 play from Markus is now Luka is so afraid to try and protect himself and keep himself safe. Because if there's anything he really wants to knock out, he can just feint it and throw an attack at it and pretty much guarantee a knockout for it every single time, assuming he has a super effective attack, which the way many Nihilegos, particularly when they started out in this format, often have that coverage. With Sludge Bomb and Power Gem, you're hitting a lot of things. The only thing you need is something a little bit different. We're going to see a feint again.
Garchomp not able to protect this turn, even if it went for it. Nihilego with that hidden power, it's super effective, and Garchomp is able to survive and use Swords Dance. Unfortunately for it, with that feint, I don't think it'll be sticking around long enough to take advantage of it, but Arcanine happy to do something of its own to maybe get it the time that it needs. We're going to see that Fire Emblem Z, that Inferno Overdrive, or Z Sunny Day.
Yes, what we're going to have is an adaptation from Luka. Yes, it looked like we were going to be seeing a Z Sunny Day. He manages to get the sun set up, but it's at full health, so that's not really a problem for it there. It's kind of like he's trying to set up for something a little bit later. Luka in the corner, kind of scrunching his nose and struggling, doesn't look very comfortable in it. Hariyama will be able to deal with Garchomp with a potential feint, but I do feel like, you know, Nihilego's still in a great position to start knocking stuff out. Both these Pokemon now are not going to be appreciating Power Gems, especially after they're not able to protect at all.
Feint into the Mandibuzz Power Gem from that Nihilego into the Arcanine. Arcanine is able to survive, but not sure what it can do here. Flare Blitz is going to get a boost from the sun, but with that recoil damage, definitely enough to knock itself out. Can't even knock out that Nihilego, unfortunately, and Garchomp sent back out onto the field in that Arcanine's place.
Yeah, we are going to see this Nihilego just doing so well. The Garchomp isn't really able to do anything this turn. It's just going to get knocked out by a feint from this Hariyama. And this Mandibuzz is going to have to tolerate another Power Gem from this Nihilego. So overall, it's definitely going to struggle to, you know, stick around. This has been a really clean sweep of a game for Markus. I don't see any way back. You know, Mandibuzz isn't going to be able to do enough damage, and Garchomp, of course, isn't going to be able to move in this game. So this looks like a clean game for Markus. Game 1 was a little bit scruffier, but this one looks like he's going to try and tidy it up in style, perhaps.
Arcanine going to weaken the attack of the Garchomp on Luka's side of the field, possibly just making sure that no matter what happens from this point onwards, Markus is able to lock up the knockout against that Garchomp. Power Gem will connect with it though, so Garchomp did its best, tried to do something this turn, but unfortunately just was unable to attack after the Swords Dance it's set up. Nihilego revealing that it boosted its speed with that Beast Boost. So very interesting. Not something you see often. Foul play, getting a critical hit, almost knocking out that Arcanine, but with just this Mandibuzz left on Luka's side of the field, it's probably not enough.
Yeah, there was actually a mistake from me earlier saying that there was, of course, the special attack boost on that Beast Boost. But Hariyama's back in play now. Going to be able to fake out the Mandibuzz, and Arcanine's going to be able to follow up with a big attack. I don't see a way for Mandibuzz to take on a 3v1. This is not Dragonite against this team that Markus is piloting right now.
It's not a Dragonite, but it'll certainly try its best. Flare Blitz from Arcanine crashing into that Mandibuzz. Arcanine getting knocked out by its own recoil. Mandibuzz with the foul play targeting down that Hariyama. Maybe another critical hit, but not. No, it's not very effective. It wouldn't come close indeed. Close combat from Hariyama into that Mandibuzz to finish up the game. Markus winning 2 games over 0 wins on Luka's side, goes on to round 8 with only 1 loss, just 1 step closer to making it onwards to tomorrow.
Well, I think that's a much cleaner execution of this team. I wouldn't be shocked if it's an exact replica of the team we actually saw Tobias piloting. You know, they are both from the same area. They do work together in a number of projects, and I think it's safe to assume that, you know, they're probably running the same team. We didn't see all the information to confirm it. We didn't see much out of the Tapu Bulu. We didn't see something like the Bulk Up. But that team, you know, we do talk about it. What team is going to be good? And multiple players can play it differently. I think there's some interesting adaptations. The Nihilego getting a speed boost is certainly interesting. Make sure it's very, very comfortable and able to keep outspeeding things if it picks up an early knockout. Doesn't have to worry about weird choice scarfs coming out from things like Garchomp. But overall, you know, I felt that team was very, very well built. Luka's team just seemed a little bit off to me. Of course, he is coming into these last few rounds on the X&2 record every time at the minimum. You know, he is going to have to win out now. And his team just felt rather odd. That Kangaskhan felt a little bit shoehorned in. That the Mandibuzz didn't quite. We never saw it alongside the Tapu Fini.
Yeah, I don't personally understand that. I mean, when you think of Mandibuzz, you think of Tapu Fini. It's like a given almost. So maybe Luka had some experience with the Porygon Z matchup, or it seemed similar to what Markus brought maybe earlier in the tournament. So trying to double up on his strategy, but the thing was, you know, other than that foul play, Mandibuzz just wasn't able to deal damage. So I don't know. It was certainly an interesting way to play. I think that Kangaskhan has a really interesting role on Luka's team, and I think in the right situation, you know, things like that fake out, we saw the return from it, like that bulldoze, maybe in combination with the Z Sunny Day could you know, work out really well for him, but I don't think that was the right matchup on paper.
No, it was a very, very tough matchup for Luka, but Markus, you know, really building confidence. That's definitely the kind of win you want in round 7, because then you've got to play round 8 and 9. He can afford to lose 1. I don't think he'll want to, but he can afford to lose, you know, one of them maximum, though, no more than the 1. It's definitely tough, you know, going into these tournaments when we have a definitive cut. You know exactly what you're going to get. It's like, thou shalt count to 2. 3 is too many. That is how Top Cut works in this instance. And that is exactly what these players need to be thinking of as they get into these later rounds.
All right, well, speaking of players moving on to later rounds, we actually have another game going on that we're going to bring you very shortly. It's featuring a player that we had on stream earlier. It's Sebastian making another appearance against
Going against Barris, so we've actually got players.
Yeah, two repeats here.
They've both been on, but you know, it should be very, very good to see exactly how this one matches up. I think Sebastian may still be in a really good position from his standings wise, so if he can win it, should pretty much secure him that berth in tomorrow's Top Cut. That's going to be really important to see. We are going to see, you know, both these players at 6-0. Whoever wins makes it in.
Yeah, so there is a lot on the line right now, and both these trainers have actually won one game already. So talk about on the line. Whoever wins this game even will move on to tomorrow pretty easily at that point. Arcanine Celesteela out on the field for Barris. Sebastian has Persian and Tapu Fini out on his side of the field. Already lost one of his Pokemon. Barris still has all 4, but this game is definitely not over yet. Arcanine starting this turn off with a Protect, afraid of the Muddy Water or other water type attack that Tapu Fini could send out. Foul play from the Persian into the Celesteela does a nice amount of damage, and the Muddy Water from the Tapu Fini connects with that Celesteela. It looks for the knockout, and it gets it.
Yeah, that levels up the Pokemon count at 3-3. And with the Pokemon on the field, I do think Sebastian definitely has a good matchup against the Arcanine. We are going to lose the Misty Terrain, and Tapu Koko coming in is going to be very, very good to deal with this Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini might have to buy some time, allow that Persian to open up some doors with, of course, the Parting Shot. That's very interesting to see good use of Parting Shot. But at the same time, Tapu Fini wants to really attack, and maybe the opportunity is there for Sebastian to call Barris's bluff, ignore a potential Protect, and just sneak in a Muddy Water. I think that's something he definitely needs to look for in this matchup. And with so much on the line, a guaranteed place in Top Cut. Of course, they could both make Top Cut. They're in fantastic positions to do so at 6-0 in their tournament record. This game and these decisions all have a little bit more weight on the shoulders of these two players.
Arcanine clapping its paws together, ready to help out its friend Tapu Koko on Barris' side of the field with a Dazzling Gleam, trying to knock out that Persian. It gets the knockout before Persian is able to use that Parting Shot and otherwise weaken Tapu Koko's attack ability. Muddy Water from that Tapu Fini will connect with both the Arcanine and the Tapu Koko. Arcanine just barely holding on. Tapu Koko getting the accuracy drop, and Arcanine happy that it's still out on the field, munches down on that Agua Berry to bring back half of its health.
Wow, that's a good turn, I think, for Barris. Sebastian making the right play there in trying to sneak in a very audacious little Muddy Water when it was under a lot of pressure from the Tapu Koko. But Sebastian bringing in his full health Tapu Koko. This is his last 2 Pokemon on the field. The combination of both these Tapus is very, very potent indeed. I think he needs to deal with Barris' Tapu Koko and then look to deal with the Arcanine, but it's so hard to just ignore Arcanine, particularly in this meta game. It's so hard to ignore. I know before we cut back to this game, I did see the Gigavolt Havoc coming out on my side screen. Knowing, of course, that that's been used kind of shows that Barris just has to make do with what he's got.
Both Tapu Kokos protecting this turn. Arcanine decides it wants to join that party and goes for a Protect as well. Tapu Fini's Muddy Water will therefore not connect with any Pokemon on the opposing side of that field.
Not at all, and this game is actually going to come down to the Tapu Koko on the field and how they match up, because Sebastian's Tapu Koko really needs to get a knockout on the Tapu Koko on Barris' side of the field, but exactly how they get it is going to be very tough indeed. Because they are, of course, the same Pokemon, it all comes down to the training that they have. Now, Barris has been very, very offensive, and seeing in the previous round and a little bit earlier, that Z move does kind of indicate what, how it's been trained to be very, very fast and very, very offensive. Sebastian needs to match that. That's absolutely essential, because this turn he may be able to protect Tapu Fini, but he needs to get good value out of his Tapu Koko. That's absolutely essential.
The move time is almost down to 0 on Sebastian's side of the field. He's taking this time, wants to make sure he picks the right attacks. Tapu Fini starting this turn off with a Protect as Arcanine goes for the extreme speed into the opposing Tapu Koko and gets a critical hit. Tapu Koko on Barris' side of the field will Thunderbolt into the protecting Tapu Fini, and Tapu Koko on Sebastian's side of the field uses Dazzling Gleam trying to get those knockouts, but Tapu Koko just barely holding on.
Yeah, I think he needed to get knockouts there. This makes it so much harder for him. The Tapu Koko, of course, on Barris' side, just looks to have that upper hand. Tapu Fini, though, getting one of Barris' own benefit.
Tapu Fini with the double Protect. It's just like the last time we had Barris on stream, but the other way around. Tapu Koko this time able to knock out the opposing Tapu Koko on Barris' side of the field with that Dazzling Gleam. Gets a critical hit on the Arcanine as well, but Arcanine happy to stick around for a little bit longer. Use that Flare Blitz to knock out the Tapu Koko. Big question here is, will the recoil damage be enough to knock it out? And Arcanine just barely hangs on.
Yeah, I think Barris there really didn't suffer too much from that successful double protect from Sebastian. It may be a quick helping of Mr. Barris's miracle protecting elixir, but it didn't help out. You know, it's been present in every single game, and this Tapu Fini is just not going to be able to deal with this. Barris looks like he's very much set to secure that berth in top cut, especially with Arcanine trying to help out.
Arcanine trying to help out, or maybe applauding Barris's accomplishment as Garchomp fires off a poison jab into that Tapu Fini for the knockout. And just like that, Barris locking up his invite into the day 2 of Swiss tomorrow. Sebastian not out of the running yet. This is his first